Man, how are you?
Doing really well here, Neil, and I'm really interested in our guest today, Dr. Luisa.
Yeah, Dr. Luisa wears multiple hats, and we're going to talk about her story of becoming a doctor. And Doc, when I was reading that bio to you a couple hours ago in the green room, it was impressive. Like the story, it's like wow. It gives me that wow factor of how did she do it to become a doctor today? And we look forward to hearing some of the story without giving it away, right, Doc?
That
That's
sounds
correct.
great. I can't wait to hear it.
All right, Dr. Luisa, thanks for stopping by. So, before we get into your book, tell us what you currently are doing, and then we're going to jump right into specifically why you wrote the book.
Okay. Well, first, thank you for having me in your show, Neil and Dr. Allen. Thank you for being the co-host. Um, I came from communist Romania 37 years ago, and I came for a 2 month visit that ended up becoming a lifetime. It took me about 15 years to succeed to become a physician. Um, and the book, Push and Breathe, Trauma, Triumph, and the Making of an American Doctor, it really has my journey for the first 15 years here in the United States. And it culminates with my graduation from medical school. Further, further my career afterwards with the residency. I am prior Air Force. I'm very proud to say that I am an American veteran. I did a military residency in OBGYN. Then I paid back to the Air Force the years that that I have they invested in me. And then I went back to fellowship, did the 3 years of maternal fetal medicine specialty, which is high risk pregnancies. From there, I have been practicing MFM in the Midwest, in Indiana, then in Texas. And in 2022, due to another set of crazy events, right after COVID, I have decided that, it's time to open my own practice, but this time it's going to be telemedicine. So right now I have my own practice, Telemed MFM. It is 100% telehealth, and it's amazing. It's so interesting how, what seems to have been at that time a huge, failure because, my practice has closed, the practice that I was running would turn in such a huge success.
Wow. Well, we're ready to go. Go ahead, Doc, with your first question about the book.
Well, yes. So you said this book is about 15 years, the time it took you to graduate medical school. And I see this sign, Mississippi. Is that where you went to medical school?
That is actually what I did my payback from to the military. Um, so I was the recipient of the Health Profession Scholarship Program, meaning the Air Force paid my school, paid my tuition, paid really to become a doctor. Before that, you have to do a payback. And I spent 4 years in Biloxi at Keesler Air Force Base. Was my payback. And then afterwards, I separated from the Air Force and I went on to do my fellowship. I spent another 3 years, but this time in Jackson, Mississippi. So a total of 7 years.
Wow.
Yeah, you have
And
accomplished a lot, no doubt.
what do you think your biggest challenges of becoming a doctor were?
Well, I believe that my challenges were a bit different than the regular, medical student or just the regular student going through undergrad medical school. And it is, going to go to undergrad medical school residency. It's 12 to 13 years of really training and schooling. Adding a fellowship on top is 15 years total. So that it's one thing. The second thing is, or another thing is, what happened to me. So remember, I said 37 years ago, I came here to the United States for 2 months. I came to visit my father. who was a political dissident, came from communist Romania 10 years earlier, escaped communist Romania, and then he settled here in the United States. So I had not really get to know my father at all as I grew up. So I came to really meet him, see who is my father, right? Well, so I didn't speak any English. I only spoke French, Romanian, and German, not in that order. Romanian, French, and German. So I came here, as I said, to, just visit, see what is all about the United States, as a visitor. And then the plan was to go home, um, take the medical school admission exam in Romania, and then go to medical school, and that's about it. Well, my father had very, very different plans for me. So shortly thereafter, he took away my passport, coerced me into changing my name, filed for political asylum, and from there on, there became a total dependence. Mental, physical, financial. There was a lot of mental abuse, physical abuse. There was incest and abortions, you name it. So this whole went on for about 6 years and 8 months, 2,422 days. How I escaped? Well, I actually became an American citizen in December 1993. And because of that, and with a small financial help from my mother, who was still in Romania, and the fact that I was, at that time working 2 jobs, I succeeded to escape, get my own apartment, and get a car, get a loan for a car, and start living my own life.
So this you
Hmm.
said was 1993.
Yeah.
That you escaped, and
Yes.
you said this was your dad.
That is correct. That was my biological father. So since 1987, when I stepped foot in America, to 1993, I was literally like a prisoner. And again, you don't have to keep somebody behind bars to make him a prisoner. But if you take the financial independence, and if they don't have a language, how are they going to navigate a foreign country with foreign customs, right?
That's impossible and it's very challenging. How do you think, what was your biggest turnaround when you kind of escaped from that tyranny and how you changed your life? Did you just say, I'm
So,
gonna do it, or did you get advice, or you just went for it?
well, so a couple of months before this happened, it was actually October of 93, I went a very, very short visit to Romania. He allowed me to go home to see my mom. And my mom shared with me something that I was not aware of up until that very moment, is that he had no intention whatsoever to allow me or help me go become a doctor.
Ah,
See, I've always wanted to be a doctor. I wanted to be a doctor since I was in 5th grade. That was my dream. So he kept dangling that in front of me, that he's going to help me, and that he's going to help me become a doctor. And really what I was going to do is, God, if I could just get admitted and go to medical school, I will just escape this hell, right? Well, I just found out, my mom told me she had previously a very, very, direct conversation with him. And he said, no, I have no intention for her to become a doctor. She will do a very, very fine secretary.
Mm.
So that was the turning point. That was that, wow, I did not see that coming. So since that moment, I said, I gotta get out of this place. And what just so it happened that I became an American citizen 2 months afterwards. Again, that small gift that my mother gave me, over $1,000, which in Romania, that means a lot of money at that time. Um, Probably going to say, but you're working. Yes, I actually had a $1 a week allowance. Um, he would take all the money and all the checks were just deposited in his accounts.
Mm.
Well,
So,
yeah, there's really nothing you can be able to do with that much control where you don't have the ability to do that. What are your thoughts, Doc?
Well, you're right. There hasn't been, I mean, it's difficult to gain control. But you know what I was thinking of, Dr. Luisa, what you said you wanted to become a doctor beginning in at the 5th grade. So what happened to you? Why did you decide that at that time?
well, I've done a lot of podcasts lately, and no one asked me that question. But I'll tell you, this is really how it kind of came down to it. Um, as I grew up, I was a very sickly child. I had chronic tonsils infections. Okay. And I was in and out of doctor's offices all the time. My poor mother would just take me to the pediatrician, give me antibiotics. 2 weeks would go better. Then it will just keep going and go like a revolving door. So finally, in this second grade, my pediatrician has decided that she's going to finally give me this surgery to remove my tonsils because now this infection was affecting my heart. I was getting myocarditis. Um, and that surgery was performed again back home in communist Romania. I basically had no anesthesia. I was tied to a metal chair and I had this tonsils yanked out of my throat while I was awake. But besides the trauma of that, right? After I healed, I realized that everything kind of changed around for the better. It's like I was healthy, I was eating, I was gaining weight. I was just a different person altogether, right? Because this nidus of infection got removed. So I was so amazed how a human can have so much good power over another human to help them regain their health. It was like, wow, this is amazing. Imagine I could do this. That is where I believe the desire to help people started, growing in me. And,
Wow.
I could not imagine myself being anything else but a physician.
So
It's such a, yeah.
there weren't any physicians in your family, so it
No,
wasn't a modeling or family model for you.
no.
What are people, go ahead, Doc. Sorry.
This may come as a surprise to you, but my grandmother told the same story about having her tonsils removed. It was really done like in a dentist
Yeah.
chair. And I suppose there was some local anesthetic, but I can tell you I wouldn't like to have that done. It's what you're describing is an absolutely grotesque procedure, and to be tied down is just
Oh, yeah.
not describable. You can't even imagine what that must feel like. But I can tell you, I'm glad I was out. I had my tonsils out when I was 7, and ether, that was what was
Mhm.
used then.
Oh,
Well,
my goodness. Yeah.
ether's pretty good to you, it's just that it's just the smell, It's a kind anesthetic, but anyway,
All right.
at least
Now,
sleeping.
what do you think people are going to be most surprised about, Dr. Luisa, about your book while when they read it?
Well, it's not only the story, Neil. So yes, like all memoirs, right? They have a story. Like all books, they have a story, they have a journey. It happens in the memoirs that they are all true stories, but there is a message. And the message on that book comes out of this one small, you ask me, what made you turn? Well, there was a second turn. that I wanted to mention to you. About 1 year later, after I escaped, now as an American citizen, I could actually invite anyone to come to the United States to visit me. So I invited my mom. My mom was my cornerstone all through these years, even though she did not know what was happening to me. And I invited her. And one day, she came in November, beginning of November 1994. And one day we were coming from the Mass. It was Thanksgiving Day. We just got out of Thanksgiving Mass. We were in New Hampshire, in Manchester, New Hampshire, and we were walking from the Mass. It was beautiful outside. There was snow everywhere. And all of a sudden, she stops, okay, and on the path. I'm like, well, I wonder why she's stopping. So I turn around and she looks at me and she asked me this question. What about your school, Luisa? What about your dream?
Yeah.
You see, Neil, at that time I was working 3 jobs, trying to survive from day to day. You know, kind of life was taking me on another ride, the one of survival. And I was hoping still that I could just go back to school, but it becomes, you know how it becomes kind of a faded kind of dream that you're like, I'm going to do it someday. I'm going to do it someday. Just like that, we're trying to kid ourselves that we're going to do it someday, although we see that it's kind of going away from us. So when she said that, it just dawned on me that I was refusing to see that I was letting it slip away. My dream to become a doctor was actually slipping away.
Yeah.
So that moment, I felt like I was falling through a frozen ice lake. I was like, gosh, this is going to go away and I'm never going to become a doctor. Well, that day, I changed from feeling helpless and hopeless. I took ownership. I started believing that I can do this. And 2 months later, after she left in January, I applied to undergrad. I applied to University of Massachusetts in Lowell.
Mhm.
I got in that following September, and
Wow.
yeah, so I finished my undergrad in 2 years, and then I applied to medical school, and really the rest is history.
Wow, this is such a tremendous story. We're going to definitely have the part 2 next week, Doc. So we're going to talk more about business, but people could check out your book. Where's the best place people can get your book?
So my book is on hardcover. It's on Kindle. It is on audiobook. It's on Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, Spotify, and also they can follow it through my website. My website is drluissak.com. And they can find me there. They can sign up for my newsletter. The name of the book again is Push Then Breathe, Trauma, Triumph, and the Making of an American Doctor.
All right. We appreciate it, Dr. Luisa. Thanks again.
Thank you,
Thank
Doctor.
you.
All right.
Thank
That
you,
was a
Howard.
special simulcast of the Neil Haley Show.